The aliens stood amazed. Then the Terran Warship opened fire. Captain Dae-hyun sat in his command chair aboard the TCS Indomitable, watching the stars drift past the viewport. 3 months into their patrol mission, and nothing interesting had happened. His crew was getting restless. Space exploration sounded exciting until you realized it mostly meant staring at empty black for weeks at a time. The ship hummed quietly around him. 200 souls aboard humanity's first true deep space warship. They were testing new engine designs, new weapons, new everything. Earth had finally cracked faster-than-light travel 5 years ago, and now they were pushing outward into the galaxy with careful, nervous steps. Yuna looked up from her communication station, her headset blinking with activity. She was young, barely 25, but she had the best ears on the ship. If something was out there making noise, she would find it. "Captain, I'm picking up something strange," she said, adjusting her controls. "Multiple signals, very strong. They just appeared out of nowhere." Dae-hyun felt his pulse quicken. "Can you identify them?" "No, sir. The patterns don't match anything in our database. They're not natural, though. Definitely artificial." First Officer Tae-sung moved to the tactical display, his fingers dancing across the controls. Red dots began appearing on the screen. 1 dot, 3 dots, 10 dots, 20 dots. They kept multiplying. "Captain, we have contact," Tae-sung said, his voice tight. 37 unknown vessels just dropped out of what looks like hyperspace. Distance 200,000 kilometers and closing. The bridge went silent. Everyone knew what this meant. Humanity had been searching for alien life for centuries. Now, apparently, alien life had found them first. "Battle stations," Dae-hyun ordered. "Shields up, weapons hot, but do not fire. Yuna, try to establish communication. Use every frequency we have." The crew moved with practiced efficiency. Hee-jin, the tactical officer, powered up the railguns and missile batteries. Her screen showed firing solutions calculating automatically, red targeting boxes appearing around each alien vessel. The Indomitable might be humanity's first deep space warship, but it was built for war. Every human ship was. On the main view screen, the alien vessels became visible. They were enormous, each one 3 times the size of the Indomitable. Their hulls were smooth and metallic, decorated with flowing symbols that glowed with soft blue light. They moved in perfect formation, graceful and precise. "They're beautiful," someone whispered. Yuna's console erupted with noise. "Captain, receiving transmission. It's complex, multi-layered. My computer is trying to decode it now." Dae-hyun watched the alien fleet arrange itself around his ship. His military training screamed warnings at him. That formation, the way they were moving, cutting off escape routes, surrounding them from all angles. It looked like an attack pattern. "Translation coming through," Yuna said. Her face went pale as she read the screen. "Captain," they're saying, "surrender or be destroyed. Your primitive vessel is now property of the Galactic Council. Power down your weapons immediately or face termination." The bridge erupted in shouts. Tae-sung gripped his console. Hee-jin's hand hovered over the firing controls. Dae-hyun felt ice water flood his veins. "Are you certain that's what they said?" he asked. "Yes, sir. The translation software is running at 98% confidence. That's their message." Dae-hyun thought about the colony behind them. 15,000 people, mostly families, living on humanity's first extrasolar settlement. No weapons, no defenses. If these aliens got past the Indomitable, those people were defenseless. "Captain, they're powering up something," Hee-jin reported. "Energy signatures building across their fleet. I can't identify the weapons type, but they're definitely weapons." On the view screen, the alien ships began to glow. Bright lines of light traced patterns across their hulls. To the aliens, it was ceremonial lighting, a traditional welcome display. To the humans, it looked like weapons charging for firing. The alien commander, Vrilthos, sat comfortably in his command chamber. The diplomatic mission was proceeding perfectly. They had found the primitive species, surrounded their small vessel in the traditional embrace formation, and transmitted the standard greeting. Any moment now, the primitives would respond with gratitude and accept the Council's protection. They are not responding, his communications officer reported. Vrilthos was puzzled. Perhaps their translation systems needed more time, he ordered. The ceremonial lights activated, showing the humans the beauty and power of Council vessels. Surely that would impress them. Aboard the Indomitable, Daehyun watched his crew. Every face showed the same emotion, fear mixed with determination. They were 200 humans against 37 alien warships. The logical choice was surrender. But logic didn't account for what those aliens threatened. Logic didn't account for 15,000 colonists. Logic didn't account for humanity's absolute refusal to submit to threats. Hae-jin, do we have firing solutions on all targets? Daehyun asked quietly. Yes, sir. Locked and ready. Tae-sung, what's our best escape vector? Through their formation straight ahead. We punch through fast and hard, they'll need time to reorient. Daehyun took a deep breath. This was the moment. This decision would change everything. If he fired first, he might be starting a war with a vastly superior force. If he didn't fire, his ship and the colony might be destroyed. He thought about his training, about every lesson humanity had learned through thousands of years of warfare. When someone threatened you, when someone demanded surrender, when someone pointed weapons at your home, there was only one response. All batteries, Daehyun said clearly. Open fire. The Indomitable unleashed hell. Railguns fired solid slugs at a fraction of light speed. Missiles streaked out in swarms, their nuclear warheads bright against the dark. Laser arrays carved through space, invisible until they struck their targets. The nearest alien ship never knew what hit it. The railgun slug punched through its hull like paper, the kinetic energy causing catastrophic internal damage. It broke apart in seconds, debris spinning into space. Vrilthos stared in absolute shock as his screens lit up with damage reports. The primitive vessel was attacking. 3 ships destroyed in the first salvo, 5 more damaged. His ceremonial fleet, designed for diplomatic missions, had almost no defensive capabilities activated. Return fire, he screamed, but his weapons officers were frozen with surprise. The Indomitable accelerated forward, still firing. Every weapon system blazed continuously. Hae-jin worked with cold precision, directing fire to maximize damage. She targeted engines, power cores, anything that looked vital. Breakthrough, Tae-sung shouted. We're through their formation. Behind them, the alien fleet scrambled to respond, but the Indomitable was already accelerating away, its experimental engines pushing it faster than the aliens thought possible for such a primitive species. Daehyun watched his rear displays, seeing the alien fleet finally beginning to pursue. They had destroyed 7 ships and damaged 12 more, against a fleet of 37 using surprise and aggression. Yuna, send a priority message to Earth, Daehyun ordered. Tell them we've made first contact with hostile aliens. Tell them to prepare for war. As the message transmitted, Daehyun allowed himself one moment of doubt. Had he just saved humanity or doomed it? Had those aliens really threatened them? Or had something gone wrong with the translation? It didn't matter now. The first shots had been fired. Humanity had announced itself to the galaxy in the only language it truly knew, the language of defiance, of survival, of absolute refusal to bow down. Behind them, Vrilthos broadcast a galaxy-wide emergency signal. His message was simple and terrified. A primitive species had attacked without provocation. The Council's diplomatic fleet had been savaged. These humans were violent, dangerous, and completely unpredictable. The galaxy would soon learn what humanity had always known about itself. They would learn it written in fire and blood across the stars. They would learn that humans, when threatened, did not surrender. They fought. The aliens stood amazed. Then the Terran Warship opened fire. President Jiwoo stood in the emergency command center deep beneath Seoul, watching the holographic display with mounting dread. The message from Captain Daehyun had arrived 3 hours ago. First contact with aliens. Hostile contact. 7 enemy ships destroyed. But 30 more were out there, and now humanity had no idea what was coming next. How long until we know more? She asked. Defense Coordinator Sung Min looked exhausted already, and the war hadn't even officially started. Unknown, Madam President. We're blind out there. The Indomitable is running silent, trying to get back to the colony. All other ships have been recalled to defensive positions around Earth and our 3 colony worlds. Jiwoo studied the display. Little blue dots represented human ships. 47 total. That was humanity's entire deep space fleet. 5 years of faster-than-light travel, and that was all they had managed to build. The engineering was still new, still expensive, still difficult. What's our assessment of enemy strength? She asked. Sungmin pulled up another display. Based on what Daehyun reported, we estimate the initial contact group was a diplomatic fleet. Lightly armed, ceremonial. If that's their diplomats, their actual military fleet must be substantial. Intelligence suggests the Galactic Council controls 17 star systems, with multiple inhabited worlds. Conservative estimate, they could have thousands of ships. Thousands, Jiwoo repeated softly. Against our 47? Yes, Madam President. The room fell silent. Everyone understood the mathematics. This wasn't a war humanity could win through conventional means. They were too few, too scattered, too new to space. Do we try to negotiate? Someone asked. Jiwoo shook her head. They told Daehyun to surrender or die. They threatened our colony. If we try to negotiate from weakness now, they'll crush us. We need to show strength first. Engineer Bora stepped forward. She was small, barely 5 feet tall, but her reputation was enormous. She had designed half the weapon systems currently deployed on human ships. Madam President, we have options, Bora said. The Council has been at peace for thousands of years. Their technology might be more advanced, but they've forgotten how to fight. We haven't. Every human ship is a weapon. Every human knows how to kill. Show me, Jiwoo ordered. Bora activated her presentation. Technical specifications flooded the screens. Railguns that fired projectiles at incredible speeds. Nuclear missiles with yields that could vaporize cities. Laser arrays powerful enough to cut through ship hulls. AI systems designed to coordinate attacks across multiple vessels simultaneously. We've also been developing some special projects, Bora continued. Weapons we weren't sure we'd ever need. Now we need them. She showed designs for nuclear-pumped lasers, antimatter warheads, relativistic kill vehicles. Weapons so powerful they frightened even her. If they come to Earth, we can make them bleed. The message from the Galactic Council arrived 2 days later. It was broadcast across every frequency, translated into every human language, impossible to miss or ignore. Vrilthos appeared on screens worldwide. He looked humanoid but distinctly alien, with golden skin and 3 eyes arranged in a triangle on his face. His voice was calm but firm. People of Earth, I am Ambassador Vrilthos of the Galactic Council. Your vessel attacked our diplomatic fleet without provocation, destroying 7 ships and killing 300 Council citizens. This act of violence cannot stand. The Council has declared humanity a hostile species. You have 1 standard cycle to surrender your military forces and submit to Council authority. Refuse and your species will be pacified by force. This is your only warning. The broadcast ended. Across Earth, people watched in stunned silence. First contact with aliens, and it had immediately turned into a death threat. Jiwoo called an emergency meeting with her military commanders. Admiral Jae-hyun attended via secure video link from the TCS Defender, humanity's largest warship currently in orbit around Mars. Options? Jiwoo asked simply. Jae-hyun didn't hesitate. We fight. If we surrender, we lose everything. Our freedom, our colonies, possibly our lives. Better to fight and die free than live as slaves. Can we win? No, Jae-hyun admitted. Not in a straight fight. But we can make victory so expensive they decide peace is cheaper. We use asymmetric warfare. Hit and run. Target their supply lines. Make them bleed for every inch of space. They'll send a fleet first, Sungmin said. Probably to Earth. A show of force meant to terrify us into submission. Let them come, Jae-hyun said grimly. We'll be ready. The Galactic Council assembled its first punitive fleet at a staging area 3 light-years from Earth. 300 warships, a force that could conquer small civilizations. The fleet commander, General Krelnak, briefed his officers with confidence. The humans are primitives, he said. Violent, yes, but primitive. Our technology is thousands of years more advanced. This will be a simple pacification mission. Jump to Earth, demonstrate our power, accept their surrender. We'll be home in 10 cycles. His officers agreed. The consensus was clear. Humanity would see 300 warships and immediately give up. What else could they do? The fleet jumped to Earth 3 days later. They emerged from hyperspace at the system's outer boundary, their ships arranged in an intimidating wall of metal and firepower. Krelnak was already composing his victory report. "Scan the system," he ordered. "Locate their military assets." His sensor officer worked for several minutes, then looked up with confusion. "Sir, I'm detecting 43 vessels in various orbits around the third planet and its satellite. They're small, primitive design. But sir, they're not running. They're moving into formation." Krelnak laughed. 43 ships against 300? These humans are insane. Prepare to fire warning shots across their formation. That should convince them. Captain Hyunwoo commanded the TCS Retribution, positioned in high orbit above Earth. Around him, the other 42 ships of humanity's defense fleet held position. On his screen, the alien fleet looked like a solid wall of death. "Weapons Officer Soo-jin, status?" he asked. "All railguns loaded and charged, sir. Missile batteries ready. Nuclear warheads armed. AI targeting systems online." "Good. When they enter range, target their capital ships first. Maximum firepower, maximum aggression. Show them what humans do to invaders." The alien fleet advanced, moving slowly, confidently. They expected the human ships to break and run. Instead, the human formation held steady. Krelnak frowned. "Why aren't they fleeing? Surely they understand they're outmatched." His tactical officer spoke hesitantly. "Sir, I'm reading multiple energy spikes from the human vessels. They're powering weapons. I think they mean to fight." "Ridiculous. Signal them to stand down immediately or we'll destroy them." The signal transmitted. Hyunwoo read it, smiled coldly, and deleted it. "All ships," he broadcast to the human fleet. "Remember, we're not here to win. We're here to make them pay. For every human ship they destroy, we destroy 5 of theirs. Make them understand that invading Earth costs blood. Fire at will." The human fleet opened fire simultaneously. Dozens of railgun slugs crossed the distance in seconds, moving too fast for the alien point defense to track. Nuclear missiles followed, thousands of them, each one guided by sophisticated AI systems that made them nearly impossible to intercept. Krelnak's fleet reeled in shock. The lead ships exploded as railgun slugs punched through their hulls. Missiles detonated across the formation, nuclear fireballs blossoming in the void. In the first 30 seconds of combat, 18 council ships were destroyed. "Return fire," Krelnak screamed. "Destroy them all." The council ships fired their energy weapons, brilliant beams of coherent light designed to disable rather than destroy. They were weapons meant for police actions, for controlling rebellious populations. Against military-grade human armor, they were barely effective. The battle raged for hours. The human ships fought with savage efficiency, using every trick they knew. They fired and relocated, never staying in one position. They used debris as cover, hiding behind destroyed ships. They coordinated attacks, overwhelming single targets with combined firepower. Soo-jin worked her controls like a concert pianist, directing fire, updating targeting priorities, calculating firing solutions faster than the alien sensors could track. When 3 council ships tried to flank the Retribution, she destroyed all 3 with a single railgun volley, the slugs passing through each ship in sequence. On Colony World New Seoul, Administrator Min Seo watched the battle on long-range sensors. The aliens were pushing through toward Earth, and some ships were breaking off, heading toward the colonies. She made a decision. "Evacuate all personnel to the shelters," she ordered. "Then overload the fusion reactor. If they want this colony, they'll get it as a bomb." Her staff stared at her. "Ma'am, that will destroy everything we've built. Better destroyed than conquered. Do it." When the council ships arrived at New Seoul, they found an empty colony. They moved into orbit, preparing to land occupation forces. The fusion reactor detonated, a miniature sun that caught 17 ships in its blast. None survived. Back at Earth, the battle reached its climax. The human fleet was down to 31 ships. The council fleet had lost 143. Krelnak couldn't believe the numbers. How were these primitives so effective? The aliens stood amazed. Then the Terran Warship opened fire. Supreme Commander Drethkon of the Galactic Council Defense Fleet studied the battle reports from Earth with growing disbelief. General Krelnak's fleet had lost nearly half its ships to a primitive species. It was humiliating. It was impossible. It was unacceptable. How did this happen? He demanded, his forearms gesturing at the holographic displays showing the battle damage. His intelligence officer, A being from the cautious Pelthon species spoke carefully. The humans fight differently than we expected, Supreme Commander. They show no regard for traditional combat protocols. They use weapons designed purely to kill rather than disable. Their tactics are aggressive, ruthless, and highly effective. They're barbarians, Drethkon spat. We will show them what happens when primitives challenge the Council. Assemble a war fleet, 1,000 ships. I will lead them personally. We will crush Earth and make an example of humanity that the galaxy will never forget. Across Council space, the call went out. 1,000 warships began gathering at the staging point. It was the largest military fleet assembled in 3,000 years. The Council wanted humanity erased from the galaxy. On Earth, the victory celebration was brief. Admiral Jae-hyun stood in the command center, surrounded by damage reports and casualty lists. 12 ships destroyed, 31 damaged, 8,000 people dead. They had won the battle but couldn't win the war. Intelligence estimates they'll come back with at least 1,000 ships, Sungmin reported. Possibly more. They have the resources of 17 star systems. We have 3 colonies and 1 home world. Then we change the strategy, Jae-hyun said. We can't fight them head on again. We need to take the war to them. President Ji-woo looked up from her tablet. Explain. Asymmetric warfare, Jae-hyun said, pulling up a star map. They have supply lines, shipyards, command stations. We hit those, make them defend everything, force them to spread their fleet thin, and we do it deep in their territory where they think they're safe. That's suicide, someone protested. Maybe, Jae-hyun agreed, but it's better than sitting here waiting for 1,000 ships to show up. We make them bleed in their own space. We show them that nowhere is safe from human retaliation. Captain Dae-hyun, now promoted to Commodore for his actions during first contact, was given command of the strike force. 5 ships, hand-picked crews, mission, penetrate deep into Council space and cause maximum damage. His navigator, Young-suk, was a genius at finding routes through dangerous space. She plotted a course through an uncharted nebula that most species avoided due to intense radiation. Human ships built tougher and with better shielding could survive it. This will hurt, Young-suk warned as they entered the nebula, but it'll hide us from their sensors. By the time we come out, we'll be 50 light years behind their lines. The passage took 3 days. Radiation battered their hulls. Half the crew got sick from exposure. But when they emerged, they were deep in Council territory, invisible and deadly. Their first target was a supply depot orbiting an ice world. The station was massive, handling logistics for dozens of Council worlds. It was also completely undefended. Why would they need defenses? This far from the front lines, nothing could threaten them. Dae-hyun's strike force hit the depot like a hammer. Railguns shredded the station structure. Missiles destroyed supply ships docked for loading. In 10 minutes, the depot was burning wreckage. 3 months' worth of supplies gone, hundreds of Council personnel dead. Jump coordinates ready, Young-suk reported. Next target, the shipyard at Colvin Prime. They hit 6 targets in 2 weeks. Supply depots, shipyards, communications relays. Each attack was brutal and quick. Each one sent shockwaves through Council space. How were humans penetrating so deep? How were they finding these targets? On Earth, Commander Kyung-hee led a different kind of warfare. The Council had established a blockade around human space, trying to contain them. She had a solution. Break the blockade with pure aggression. Her ship, the TCS Furious, was loaded with antimatter charges, enough explosive power to destroy a small moon. She broadcast to her crew as they prepared for the attack run. We're not coming back from this one, she said honestly, but we're going to punch a hole in their blockade that they can't close. Supply ships are waiting to get through. We're going to give them that chance. Any questions? No one spoke. Every member of her crew had volunteered. They knew what they were signing up for. The Furious accelerated toward the blockade line at maximum speed. Council ships moved to intercept, firing their weapons. Kyung-hee ignored the damage, focusing only on the largest enemy ship, a command cruiser coordinating the blockade. Ramming speed, she ordered. All hands, it's been an honor. The Furious struck the Council ship at relativistic velocity. The antimatter warheads detonated simultaneously. The explosion created a temporary star, bright enough to be seen from Earth. When the light faded, 47 Council ships were destroyed, and a 10,000-kilometer gap existed in the blockade. Human supply ships raced through the gap. Medical supplies, weapons, reactor cores, everything Earth needed. Kyung-hee's sacrifice had bought them time. Far from Earth, Commodore Dae-hyun received word of Kyung-hee's attack. His crew held a moment of silence for her and her people. Then they went back to work. They had more targets to hit. Supreme Commander Drethkon was furious. His fleet was almost assembled, but the humans were making him look like a fool. They were raiding his supply lines, destroying his infrastructure, killing his people. Worst of all, he couldn't catch them. Every time his ships arrived at an attack site, the humans were already gone. "Find them!" he roared at his officers. "I want every sensor in Council space looking for these raiders. I want them found and destroyed." But finding 5 small ships in the vastness of space was nearly impossible, especially when those ships were commanded by people who understood stealth, deception, and guerrilla warfare better than any Council species. Dae-hyun's biggest raid came at the Vorthen shipyards, where the Council built their capital ships. It was their most important industrial site, protected by 50 warships. Attacking it was supposed to be impossible. Young-suk found a way. A debris field from an ancient battle floated near the shipyards. The Council ships avoided it, considering it navigational hazard. She plotted a course straight through it. "We'll use the debris as cover," she explained. "Coast in silent, engines cold. By the time they realize we're there, we'll be in firing range." It worked perfectly. The strike force drifted into range, looking like just more debris. Then they lit up their engines and fired everything they had at the shipyards. Dozens of half-built warships exploded. Construction facilities melted under laser fire. Dry docks collapsed. In 20 minutes, the humans destroyed infrastructure that had taken centuries to build. But this time, the Council ships reacted quickly. 50 warships moved to intercept. Dae-hyun's 5 ships couldn't fight those odds. "Young-suk, get us out of here," Dae-hyun ordered. But one Council ship was faster than the others, cutting off their escape route. Tactical Officer So Young made a split-second decision. She locked all weapons on that single ship and fired continuously, draining their power reserves to maximum firepower. The Council ship exploded, opening the escape route. But return fire hit the strike force hard. 2 ships were damaged. One, the TCS Relentless, lost its main engines. "Relentless is dead in space," Young-suk reported. "Captain Byung-ho is ordering us to leave him behind. He'll buy us time." Dae-hyun wanted to argue, wanted to go back, but Byung-ho was already broadcasting on an open channel, taunting the Council ships, drawing their fire. The TCS Relentless fought alone against 50 ships, giving the rest of the strike force time to jump away. When the Relentless finally died, it took 3 more Council ships with it. Byung-ho's last transmission was simple: "Tell Earth we made them bleed." Drethkon's fleet was finally ready. 1,000 warships assembled in perfect formation. It was beautiful and terrifying, a sight that should make any enemy despair. He broadcast a message to Earth. "Humans of Earth, your raiders have been a nuisance, nothing more. Now you will face the full might of the Galactic Council. Surrender immediately or I will reduce your world to ashes. You have 12 standard hours to respond." The message was received on Earth. President Ji-woo read it, then called her military commanders. Admiral Jae-hyun appeared on screen from his flagship. "Well?" Ji-woo asked. "He wants an answer." Jae-hyun smiled coldly. "Give him one. Tell him to come and take us if he can. Tell him we're ready." The response was transmitted. Just 5 words. But they said everything about humanity. "Come to Earth, we're waiting." Drethkon received the message and laughed. These humans were so arrogant, so stupid. They thought they could stand against 1,000 ships. He would enjoy crushing them. "All ships," he commanded, "jump to Earth. It's time to end this war." The 1,000-ship fleet disappeared into hyperspace, heading for Earth. But they didn't know what was waiting for them. They didn't know about the weapons Engineer Bo-ra had been building for months. They didn't know about the defense platforms hidden as satellites. They didn't know about the nuclear mines seeded throughout the solar system. They didn't know about the mass drivers built into Luna's surface. The aliens stood amazed. Then the Terran Warship opened fire. The 1,000-ship fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system. Supreme Commander Drethkon stood on his flagship's bridge, surveying the primitive system that dared to defy the Galactic Council. 1 yellow star, 9 planets, countless asteroids. Somewhere in that system, 43 human ships awaited. This would be over quickly. "Scan the system," he ordered. "Locate all human vessels and defensive installations." His sensor officers worked for several minutes. The readings confused them. They detected the expected warships orbiting Earth and its moon. But there were thousands of other objects, too. Satellites, space stations, mining platforms, commercial vessels. The system was cluttered with human activity. "Sir, I recommend we clear the orbital debris first," his tactical officer suggested. "All those satellites could interfere with our targeting." "Waste of time," Drethkon said dismissively. "They're just satellites. Focus on the warships. All vessels advance toward the third planet. Maintain formation. When we're in range, destroy their military assets, then accept their surrender." The fleet began moving, a vast wall of metal crossing the solar system. It would take hours to reach Earth, but that was fine. Let the humans watch their doom approach. Let them understand how hopeless their situation was. On Earth, Admiral Jae-hyun watched the enemy fleets approach from his command station. Around him, dozens of officers monitored screens, coordinated defenses prepared for the battle of their lives. He opened a channel to all defense forces. "All units, they're coming in as expected. Maintain radio silence. Weapons cold until they reach the firing line. Bora, are your systems ready?" Engineer Bora responded from her control center deep beneath Seoul. "All weapon platforms standing by. Mass drivers charged. Nuclear mines armed. Laser arrays locked." "Just give the word, Admiral." Chulwoo worked beside her, monitoring power systems. Around them, hundreds of engineers waited at their stations, ready to unleash weapons the Council couldn't imagine. The Council fleet advanced confidently. They passed Mars, barely glancing at the small colony there. They passed the asteroid belt, not noticing the unusual number of mining stations. They entered the inner system, approaching Earth and Luna. Drethkon smiled. The human warships were holding position, not even attempting to meet him in open space. Cowards. They would die cowering around their homeworld. "Sir, entering effective weapons range in 5 minutes," his weapons officer reported. "Excellent. Prepare to fire on my command. Target their largest ships first. Show them the price of defiance." On Luna, the mass drivers activated. These were weapons designed to launch cargo containers into orbit, modified to throw chunks of dense metal at incredible speeds. 20 massive projectiles launched simultaneously, too fast for sensors to track properly until they were already in flight. The projectiles struck the Council fleet's lead elements like the hammer of an angry god. Each one carried the kinetic energy of multiple nuclear weapons. Ships simply vanished, torn apart by impacts they never saw coming. "What was that?" Drethkon shouted as his screens lit up with damage reports. 15 ships destroyed in an instant. "Kinetic bombardment from their moon, sir. They're using mass drivers. Return fire! Destroy those emplacements." But the mass drivers fired again and again. Each salvo destroyed multiple ships. The Council's energy weapons fired back, but hitting targets on Luna from this range was difficult. Their beams scattered, missing more often than they hit. Then the satellites activated. What the Council had dismissed as civilian infrastructure was actually a weapons network. Hundreds of platforms opened up with lasers, railguns, and missiles. They had been disguised, waiting silently for the enemy to come into range. The Council fleet found itself caught in a crossfire. Attacks came from Luna, from Earth orbit, from platforms scattered throughout near-Earth space. Ships started dying in groups, overwhelmed by coordinated fire. They turned their entire system into a weapon. Drethkon's tactical officer yelled over the alarms. "Sir, we're taking massive casualties. Recommend we withdraw and reassess."
"No, we have 1,000 ships!"
"Push through. Destroy everything." The Council fleet surged forward, trying to reach Earth itself. If they could threaten the planet directly, the humans would have to surrender. But they were entering the kill zone that Bora had prepared. The nuclear mines activated, thousands of them, hidden among the orbital debris, each one a fusion bomb powerful enough to cripple a warship. They detonated in carefully planned sequences, creating walls of nuclear fire that the Council ships had to fly through. Captain Wonshik commanded the TCS Defiance, one of humanity's 43 warships. His ship was battered from previous battles, held together with emergency repairs and determination. But he still had weapons and he still had crew. "All power to forward shields," he ordered. "We're going straight into their formation." Ramming speed. His crew didn't question the order. They knew what it meant. The Defiance accelerated toward the Council's capital ships, firing every weapon as it charged. Energy beams struck its shields, burning through layer after layer. The hull started melting under concentrated fire. "Engines critical," his engineer reported. "Hull breaches on all decks. We're not going to make it." "We don't need to make it," Wonshik said calmly. We just need to get close enough. The Defiance died fighting. Its shields collapsed, its hull tore apart, but it had momentum. The burning wreck crashed into Drethkon's flagship, tearing through the command section. One Shik's last act was to detonate his ship's reactor core, creating an explosion that disabled the flagship and killed everyone on board, including Supreme Commander Drethkon. The Council fleet reeled. Their commander was dead. Their formation was broken. Human weapons platforms kept firing, relentless and deadly. The admiral second in command tried to rally the fleet, but panic was spreading. Commodore Daehyun's strike force chose that moment to return from their raids. 4 ships appearing from an unexpected angle, hitting the Council fleet's rear. They couldn't do much damage against such numbers, but they didn't need to. They just needed to add to the chaos. Young Suk plotted hit-and-run attacks, keeping the Council ships off balance. The strike force would appear, fire a devastating salvo, then jump away before return fire could hit them. Each attack took down several enemy ships. The battle raged for 3 days. Human ships fought until they were hulks, then kept fighting with whatever weapons still functioned. When the TCS Defender lost all its main guns, Captain Taewoo used it as a battering ram, smashing into enemy vessels until his ship finally broke apart. Bora's weapon platforms fought with computer precision, never missing, never stopping. When platforms were destroyed, automated systems activated backup units. The lunar mass drivers fired until their barrels melted from heat. Even then, engineers kept them shooting. On Earth, President Jiwoo watched the battle from the command center. The casualty reports were horrific. 29 ships destroyed, 8,000 military personnel dead, orbital stations burning, but the Council was suffering worse. Much worse. Intelligence Officer Jinnah compiled the numbers. Madam President, enemy fleet strength is down to 417 ships. They've lost over half their force. Their formation is completely broken. Multiple ships are showing signs of trying to flee. Are we winning? Someone asked. We're surviving, Jae-hyun corrected. There's a difference. The Council fleet's new commander finally gave the order to retreat. The remaining ships jumped to hyperspace, fleeing the system in disorder. They left behind hundreds of destroyed vessels and thousands of dead. When the last enemy ship vanished, Earth fell silent. The defense platforms stopped firing. The surviving human ships drifted in orbit, too damaged to do more than maintain life support. Jae-hyun did a final count. 14 human warships remained operational, 29 destroyed, over 11,000 dead. The orbital infrastructure was devastated, but Earth still stood. The colonies still existed. Humanity had survived. Across the galaxy, news of the battle spread like wildfire. The Galactic Council's mighty fleet, 1,000 ships strong, had been defeated by a primitive species with fewer than 50 vessels. The losses were catastrophic. The implications were staggering. On the Council homeworld, High Counselor Zal then stood before the assembled government. He was ancient, powerful, and absolutely certain of what needed to be done. Humanity must be exterminated, he declared. They are too dangerous to exist. We will build a fleet of 10,000 ships if necessary. We will reduce Earth to molten slag. We will erase them from the galaxy. But Council member Thalius of the Vorian delegation stood up. His species was known for their mathematical thinking and cold logic. High Counselor, I must object. The Council has now lost over 1,200 warships attempting to defeat humanity. We have lost them while trying to destroy barely 30 human vessels. The mathematics are clear. Even if we build 10,000 ships and destroy every human in space, the cost will be millions of our own people dead and our economy in ruins. And for what? To defeat one small species that never asked to fight us in the first place? They attacked our diplomatic fleet, Sal then shouted. Because of a translation error that made our greeting sound like a death threat, Thalius countered. The aliens stood amazed. Then the Terran Warship opened fire. The neutral station hung in empty space, halfway between Earth and Council territory. It was small, designed for exactly this purpose. Diplomatic meetings between species that didn't trust each other. Both sides had agreed to meet here. Both sides had agreed to come armed but not aggressive. President Jiwoo arrived aboard the TCS Vigilant, one of the few human ships still in working condition. With her came Admiral Jae-hyun, still wearing his combat uniform, and Commodore Dae-hyun, the man whose first shot had started the war. Ambassador Haiwan accompanied them, a career diplomat who had spent her life preparing for first contact. She had imagined it going very differently than this. The council delegation arrived in a sleek diplomatic vessel. High Counselor Zal then led them, flanked by guards and advisors. But the real power in the council delegation was council member Thelius, the Vorian mathematician who had argued for peace. He understood something his colleagues didn't. Wars were won with logistics and economics, not just weapons. And the mathematics said the council couldn't afford this war. Both delegations met in the station's conference room. The atmosphere was cold, tense. These were representatives of civilizations that had been killing each other for months. Trust was impossible. But maybe peace wasn't. Zal then spoke first. Humanity has caused the deaths of thousands of council citizens. You have destroyed hundreds of ships. You have attacked our territory without provocation. The council demands reparations, territorial restrictions, and limits on your military capabilities. Jiwoo listened calmly, then responded. The council attacked our ship during a peaceful patrol. You threatened our colony. You sent not one but 2 invasion fleets to Earth. You demanded our surrender and threatened to destroy our world. If anyone owes reparations, it's you. You fired first, Zal then said angrily. Because your message told us to surrender or die. Jaehyun shot back. What did you expect us to do? The argument would have escalated, but Thelius raised one hand. Perhaps we should discuss how the war started before we discuss how to end it. A young human woman stepped forward. Her name was Ji Young, and she was a linguist specializing in alien communication. She had spent months analyzing the original first contact transmission, looking for what went wrong. Council members, President, I believe I've found the problem, Ji Young said nervously. She activated a holographic display showing the original message from Ambassador Vrilthos. This is the message your ship sent to Captain Daehyun's vessel, she explained. In your language, it says, we come to embrace you in the traditional welcome of the council. But when our translation software processed it, multiple words had double meanings. Embrace translated as surround and capture. Welcome became accept subjugation. The final translation our systems produced was surrender or be destroyed. The room went silent. Ji Young showed more examples demonstrating how the translation algorithm had failed catastrophically, turning a peaceful greeting into a death threat. Thelius studied the data carefully. This explains much. Ambassador Vrilthos reported that he sent standard diplomatic greetings. Your captain believed he received a threat. Both were correct based on their understanding. A computer error started this war? Zal then said in disbelief. Not just a computer error, Ambassador Haewon said quietly. A failure to communicate clearly. A misunderstanding between species that had never met before. Both sides made assumptions. Both sides reacted based on incomplete information. And thousands died because of it. The weight of that realization settled over everyone. The war, the deaths, the destruction. All of it because of a translation mistake and mutual fear. So what now? Jaehyun asked. We understand how it started. That doesn't change what happened. That doesn't bring back the dead. No, Thelius agreed. But it changes what happens next. If this war began through misunderstanding, perhaps it can end through understanding. But Zal then wasn't satisfied. Even if the war started by accident, humans proved themselves dangerous. You fought with a savagery we haven't seen in thousands of years. You turned your entire system into a weapon. You used tactics we would consider war crimes. How can the council trust that you won't attack us again? Daehyun stood up slowly. His uniform was clean now, but everyone could see the scars on his face and hands from when his ship had burned around him. Counselor, let me explain something about humans, he said. We didn't want this war. We never wanted to fight you. But when you threatened us, when you surrounded our ship and told us to surrender, we responded the only way we know how. We fought back. That's what humans do. We don't surrender. We don't give up. If you push us, we push back harder. That's exactly what concerns us, Zal then said. Then let me finish, Daehyun continued. We fight when threatened, but we also make peace when offered. We can be your worst enemy or your best ally. The choice is yours. Keep trying to conquer us and we'll fight until either you're destroyed or we are. Make peace with us, treat us with respect, and you'll find we can be reasonable. Thelius made a gesture of agreement. The mathematics support this. The Council has lost 1,200 ships in this war. Humanity has lost 31. The exchange rate is unsustainable. But more importantly, continued war serves no purpose. We don't want human territory. You don't want our worlds. We fight because we started fighting. Not because we have any real reason to be enemies. So what are you proposing? Jiwoo asked. Thelius activated another display. A treaty. Recognition of humanity as a sovereign species with full rights. Territorial boundaries agreed upon by both sides. A demilitarized zone between our spaces. Massive reductions in military forces on both sides. Cultural and economic exchange programs. And most importantly, a joint commission to improve communication between our species, so this never happens again. The negotiations took 3 weeks. Both sides argued over every detail. The Council wanted restrictions on human weapons development. Humanity refused. Humanity wanted war reparations. The Council refused. Back and forth, compromise and counter-compromise. Ambassador Haewon proved to be brilliant at finding middle ground. When talks stalled over military restrictions, she proposed mutual observation programs where both sides could inspect each other's military facilities. When arguments erupted over territorial boundaries, she suggested establishing joint colonies in disputed areas. Slowly, painfully, the treaty took shape. Neither side got everything they wanted. Both sides had to make concessions that hurt. But the alternative was more war, more death, more destruction, and both sides were exhausted. The final treaty signing took place back on the neutral station. Representatives from dozens of council species attended, along with human dignitaries from Earth and all 3 colonies. Media from across the galaxy recorded the event. President Jiwoo signed first for humanity. Her signature was firm, steady, even though the weight of 11,000 dead pressed on her shoulders. She had led her species through its first interstellar war. Now she would lead them into an uncertain peace. High Counselor Zal then signed for the Council. His hand shook slightly. His political career was over. He had failed to crush the human threat, failed to maintain Council prestige. But at least the dying would stop. When both signatures were complete, the room remained silent. There were no celebrations, no cheers. Everyone understood that this peace was fragile, built on exhaustion and pragmatic calculation rather than trust or friendship. Admiral Jae-hyun stood in the observation gallery watching the signing. Beside him were the survivors of his fleet, captains who had lost ships, officers who had lost crew, soldiers who had lost friends. They had fought impossible battles and survived. Now they had to learn to live with their former enemies. Communications Officer Yuna stood with Commodore Dae-hyun, her translation unit working perfectly now. She had fixed the algorithms, improved the protocols, made sure that what happened at first contact could never happen again. But the knowledge that her failure had contributed to the war would haunt her forever. "Do you think it will last?" she asked quietly. "The peace?" Dae-hyun considered the question. "For a while, yes. Both sides need time to recover. But eventually, there will be another crisis, another misunderstanding. The real question is whether we've learned enough to handle it without shooting." Down in the signing room, the ceremony concluded. Representatives from both sides shook hands, exchanged formal pleasantries, posed for cameras. The galaxy watched and wondered what came next. Thelius found Ambassador Haewon after the ceremony. "You did well," he told her. "Your negotiating skills made this possible." "Thank you," Haewon replied. "But I wish we had negotiated before the shooting started." "Yes, but perhaps we needed the war to understand each other. Humans needed to prove they couldn't be conquered. The Council needed to learn that not all species will submit to its authority. Painful lessons, but necessary ones. On Earth, citizens watched the signing on screens in homes, bars, and public squares. Some celebrated. Others mourned the dead. Most simply felt relief that the war was over. The economic damage had been severe. The military buildup had drained resources. The casualties had touched almost every family.